Without further ado, I'll introduce each one of them. Starting with, we went with a variety of years from 2013 to 2019, going by 3-year intervals. So the first one is Christina Skrepnichuk, graduate of 2013, who's attended Queen's University, achieved a Bachelor of Science honors with Life Sciences with distinction, and also studied at Columbia Business School, Value Investing Certificate, followed by, she's currently just completing, if she hasn't already completed, her MBA from McMaster. And she's currently in sales and training analyst for Scotiabank in Toronto. Hoping I got all that right, Christina. The second member is Chaz Sutton. He's a graduate of West Island College of 2016. He attended Queen's University as well, completed a Bachelor of Applied Sciences in Mechanical Engineering. He's currently participating in a new graduate program, investments and analyst infrastructure and natural resources for the Ontario Teachers Pension Plan. So welcome, Chaz. And Jack Poplinski, a graduate of 2019. He's currently attending Western University. He's enrolled in a Bachelor of Engineering Sciences with a specialization in software engineering. He's also been given advanced entry into the Ivy Business Program, and I think he hopes to complete a dual degree here before leaving in business and engineering. So welcome, Christina, Chaz, and Jack. And I'll begin. After the questions have completed, we'll give the audience a chance to answer questions. So we're hoping to try to limit the answers to about 2.5 minutes per question. We will get started. Hopefully it gives you an insight on West Island College that you're looking for. So first question, what did you appreciate most about the school during your time there? And how has your perspective on that changed now that you have some distance from the school? So why don't we start with Christina?
Sure. So I did some thinking about that question, and the first thing that came to my mind about what I appreciated most when I was at the school and kind of looking back at it is how much teachers actually cared about us and our well-being as students. In the classroom, out of the classroom, they were always there for us no matter what. So that's something I wanted to highlight. As WIC as a whole, I would say that WIC holds themselves to a very high standard, and also their students. And we were committed to excellence at all times, regardless of what it was, whether it was in academics, whether it was in leadership, whether it was in getting involved in club activities or volunteerism. There was really that sense of community and that pride, and really that purpose and sense of we want to be the best that we can be at whatever we're doing. So that's what I wanted to highlight. And lastly, looking back at it, WIC really did foster my work ethic. I think that's something that has carried me through from grade 7 to grade 12, throughout my undergraduate degree, throughout my MBA, now in a professional setting. That hard work really does take me, has really helped me in no matter where I've gone or what I've done. So that's what I would say. Oh, and lastly, hard work and curiosity. Curiosity was one of the main things I wanted to touch on, in the sense that in today's day and age, if you don't have hard work and you're not curious about anything, someone else will be, and they'll kind of step over you. And really having that sense of wanting to know more about something and that you're curiously driven is something that sets you apart from other students or other people in professional setting.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Chaz, same question.
Yeah, I think for me, the what I appreciated most was the breadth and the depth, the experiential learning opportunities at WIC. There's a variety of clubs and speaker series and different academic offerings that are provided, but the institutes were really the kind of core of that in my mind. And I personally got a ton out of the business and engineering institutes. On the business side, had case competitions at the Haskayne School of Business, was able to start my own apparel company that set me up well to run a $500,000 apparel business while I was at Queen's. And then another highlight was definitely the New York trip, being able to really get a feel for what finance actually looks like, walk around the Goldman trading floor, walk around the floor of the NYSE. A lot of really interesting conversations with professionals in that field. And then on the engineering side, bunch of great site visits and conversations as well. Had the opportunity to go up to Fort McMurray and speak with the engineers on the mining site, see a bunch of the operations and the heavy machinery as it was running. Also got to go to other engineering sites, including an injection manufacturing site, and talk to the engineers and figure out what their experience was like as well. So that was definitely very, very formative for my understanding of my career path. And I think as I look back to when I was a student, and I think this applies more broadly to most people as they go through junior high and high school, it's really hard to project out what an academic or a professional career path will actually look like day to day. And so that experience of being able to speak with people in their own environment as they lived that experience was really invaluable.
Thank you so much. And Jack?
Yeah, so I think the thing similar to what Christina said that I really valued most about WIC while I was there was the teacher support. So I remember like one specific time I had like done really bad, or what I thought was really bad, on a physics test. And I like went to the teacher, Miss Kalinchuk, and I was like, oh, like I feel like I studied super hard for this, and like I still did really bad. And like I really liked physics, but it was definitely my most difficult subject. And I was also playing volleyball at the time, so I like couldn't make the regular time that she had to help us. And she said like, I can be here like before school, after school, at lunch, just like tell me and we can work out times that I'll be able to help you. And so I think that support was something that I really valued at the time, and like that would definitely be an example of it. And then I think also, just like Christina also mentioned, like the support like outside of academics, like I had teachers who like if something was like off one day, they would be like, oh, like what's going on? Like I'd talk to you. So I think that's something I really valued. And then I think looking back on it, one of the things that I like really miss about WIC is just like having daily assembly, because I don't know, in my opinion, that's one of the most underrated features. Is just, you know, for those of you who don't know, WIC in non-COVID times would usually have a daily assembly where all the school would get together. And so for me, that's a really nice thing, just to be able to start your day off. It's usually after your first block, just to like kind of sit down with your friends and hear what's going on with all the different activities in the school. So those would be my two things.
Thank you, Jack. Second question. What, to the best of your knowledge, most differentiates the school from others? Maybe we'll start with Chaz this time.
Sure thing. In my mind, I think it's the commitment that the school has to supporting its students and any initiatives that they're hoping to pursue. I think the best way to illustrate that is probably through kind of an anecdotal example of the CASE, or Canadian Accredited Independent School Student Leadership Conference, that I attended with 3 other students in grade 11. This was a conference in Montreal that spanned 5 days, brought together over 150 students from all across the country for kind of intensive leadership experiences and seminars and whatnot. The 4 of us really enjoyed the experience. Thought it'd be great to take it back to WIC next year to to really showcase what our school had to offer to the rest of all these schools across the country. And so we took the idea to our student advisor, and I think that at the time he had a bit of a better idea of what it would take to run what was supposed to be a completely student-run conference, which in reality probably meant a largely student-run conference, but with a heck of a lot of input from all the faculty advisors and supporters. But despite knowing that, got a lot of support on the idea to go forward and try to host it at WIC the following year. We went through and won the bid, and then over that successive year, I think every single member of the faculty contributed in some way to helping us put this event on. Everyone gave up some time. There's a ton of engagement from the student body, rallying around to make this 5-day kind of logistical nightmare run. So I thought that was a pretty convincing example of what the school is willing to do to support students with an idea.
Thank you. I gotta agree with you. That was quite an event for sure. Jack?
So I think something that like really differentiates the school would be the institutes that Chaz had also mentioned earlier. And so you can like hear more about those. But I think for me, like I remember going on site visits to like a marketing company like Critical Mass, or we went to lots of different tech companies. And for me, that really like pointed me in the direction that I wanted to go. And at the same time, I remember that we did a hospital site visit where we got to like operate on a pumpkin. And for me, I was like, okay, that's really cool, but like not for me. So I think like in addition to telling you what you want to do, it can also help cross off some things that you're like not as interested in or stuff that you don't like. And then I think another really big thing about WIC is the ability to like be on multiple sports teams. So that's something that I really liked, just because I didn't want to just be like really good at one sport. I wanted to play multiple sports. And so I think at different schools, it can be hard to do that just because there's a lot of people who get really good at specific sports. And at WIC, I think the quality of the sports is still really good. Like our rugby team would like beat like Western's rugby team like quite frequently. But I just remember that like that was a really good thing. So I could be on like the badminton team, the track team, the volleyball team, the basketball team. And that was like something that I really valued. And then the other thing that I think is really neat about WIC is all of the different travel opportunities. And so like we have international studies trips, obviously not running these times, but those were like really cool just to go and like see the world, but also I think see it with your friends and like with your teachers from like an academic perspective was a bit different. And then in addition to that, doing different like one-off kind of trips, like there was Sea, which I would say like was definitely kind of a 1-week highlight for me, where you went and like sailed with your friends throughout the Gulf Islands. I still have like my bracelet on from that. So yeah, so really, really great times, I think, in memories from those type of trips that I would say not every school offers. And I think WIC does a really good job of offering as much and as the highest quality that they can. So yeah.
Thank you, Jack. Christina.
So Jack stole a little bit of my answer, but going back to what both of them have said is just being very supportive to students. But what I wanted to touch on with this is what differentiates WIC would be providing the best possible holistic experience, whether it's learning in a classroom or outside of the classroom. So for me, I think travel studies was a big component of that and kind of a big selling feature of learning, but not in the classroom or in an academic sense. So I had the opportunity to go on 2 travel studies trips during my time at WIC. My first one, I went to Brazil, and my group, it was a small group of us. We were with our friends and our teachers, and we were able to build a medical clinic in the middle of the Amazon jungle. which is quite an experience. Even to get there, it was 2 flights, a bus, 2 boats, and then you're there kind of thing. And we were staying in an eco lodge, and it's something that I would never think about doing or be able to plan by myself or want to do that by myself. So having that experience with my friends, giving back to the community, learning about the jungle. We got to go on a jungle excursion where we saw spiders that could kill us and ants and all that disgusting stuff, but it was a really cool experience. And then also get to go to explore a city like Rio after. So that was a great all around experience and travel experience. And then on my second trip, I went to Belize, and we were working in a jaguar clinic or jaguar reserve and building some benches there and kind of restoring that landscape. So that was really fun to explore that side of the world and be with my friends, be with my teachers, and just have that experience and opportunity to learn outside of the classroom, to learn a little bit more about myself, classmates, teachers, and professionals. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, the next question. A little bit of a tricky one. If the school were to be represented as a single person, what would its personality be like in only 3 words, and why? Why don't we start, let's start with Jack.
Okay, so I think it's also hard to avoid being super cliche with this one, but I'll do my best. So I think like the first word that I chose was just friendly. So I think that's one thing that I really, when I look back at WIC, remember is just, I remember I would walk through the hallway on the way to my locker first thing in the morning. And by the time I had got to my locker, I would have like 10 people have said like good morning to me and just like wave. And so I think that's something that's just like really nice, good way to start the day. And then I think it's also that like people like within schools or within the grade, like students are very friendly towards each other. And like, of course, I don't think it's like an illusion that everyone is best friends with everyone, but I think everyone like has like good respect for each other, and in general is just super friendly. I think another thing that WIC, like my second word would be supportive. Just like I said earlier, I had that physics teacher who was like, I can be here like before school, after school, whenever you need me, like I'll be there to support you. And in addition to that, I remember like Mr. Davidson, the social teacher, like he would frequently give up, like pretty much he missed like going to an Obama like conference speaker to like help run one of our student events, which if you knew Mr. Davidson would be like his holy grail of like going to see Obama speak. So, and he like gave that up without a second thought. So I think that is something that can like, again, really highlight the dedication of the faculty towards us. And then also in addition to that, like you see as like faculty, you kind of see like the students grow throughout the years. And I'm sure like Mr. Shalafu could talk to that. So like, for instance, if you took art, like it wouldn't be uncommon to have like the same art teacher from like grade 7 to grade 12. So like you really get to have a relationship with your teachers, which is nice. And then the third word that I chose was ambitious, because like Christina said, like people want to do like lots of really cool things. And so I think it's really interesting because like when I look at like the alumni from WIC who have done like all types of different things, like there's people in like biotech and working at like Google and just doing really amazing things like all around the world. And sometimes I like see like little posts from it and I'm like, whoa, like I didn't even know like that person went to WIC, and like I can't really believe it either, that like this little school from Calgary could like punch so high. And so I think that's something that I think is really interesting, and it will definitely be interesting to see like where all the kids from my grades go. So yeah.
Great. Thank you, Jack. Chaz.
Yeah, I think we'll probably have some similar themes as we go through this this whole activity. But my 3 words that I think encapsulate the way that I see the school are curious, supportive, and balanced. I lead off with curious because I think much like the students, the school is striving always to learn more and develop a better understanding of the world. I think that's something that's really kind of baked into the culture, is this curiosity and desire to always learn and know more. I'd echo Jack's thought there on supportive. The word that we'd always hear most in relation to WIC is a community. And I think there's always a recognition that WIC is a community, and it's greater than the sum of its parts. There's really a team player attitude, and everybody's there to contribute and help each other out. And then the third one being balanced, and I think that's because the school really does breed really well-rounded young adults after they've gone through 6 years of the kind of academic rigor and drama productions and music and arts and outdoor education and travel when that's actually permitted. There's a lot of great aspects to bring about a very well-rounded individual. So I think that those three things kind of encapsulate my view of the culture of the school.
Great, thank you, Chaz. Christina.
So Chaz took one of mine. Curiosity was the first thing that came to my mind. So the 3 words I would describe WIC is curious, dynamic, and hardworking. Curious in the sense, I've already touched on it and Chaz has touched on it, but fostering curiosity across academics, clubs, what you're interested in, what you're not interested in. Like Jack alluded to before with the institutes. During my time, the institutes weren't there, but I think that just goes to show kind of WIC is always evolving and always wants to give the best to their students. So fostering that curiosity has definitely helped WIC. Dynamic in the sense of being that versatile type of school, providing a holistic learning experience to students, dynamic, giving opportunities for people like Chaz or other students to go to the New York Stock Exchange. I would have loved to do that. I would have loved to go to a hospital, and I would have loved to go to the oil fields and see what's going on, because it is important to learn what you like and what you don't like. So I think in that sense, learning is dynamic and you're not just in the classroom. And hardworking. Just all in all, WIC is hardworking. They always put their best foot forward. That kind of bleeds throughout to the students. We were very driven. My classmates were all really hardworking students. And I think that just kind of oozes out in the culture of WIC. Work hard, but also play hard and really reap the rewards of your hard work. So, yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. What one thing would you change about the school for the better if you had to choose something? Let's go back to Christina.
Okay, this was probably the hardest question for me to come up with an idea to, just because my time versus today, those were ideas. The institutes are incredible. Though, like, I wish I had that. I wish I had the opportunity to learn in those different sectors. But that does exist. I think today what WIC can improve upon, if they don't already do it, is focusing on initiatives that foster specifically diversity of thought. And I'm sure that is a thought throughout, but something that I've noticed in the corporate world and in the MBA, in my MBA specifically right now, is this sense of diversity and inclusion. And that doesn't always necessarily have to do with race, gender, age, size, all this stuff, socioeconomic demographics. It also has to do with the diversity of thought. So that idea of people having different ideas coming around the table is, I think, something that we can work on. But like we've heard before, that is slowly being integrated into the program and has already been integrated. So just what I've seen from the corporate world, that is a big push. So it's good that WIC is doing something like that and moving that further.
Thank you. Chaz.
I think this kind of speaks to the desire to be on the leading edge of giving students the right skills and evolving the offerings that the school has. I think when I graduated, I didn't necessarily have a lot of exposure to kind of computer technology and programming. I think that's something that I would have benefited from, especially going into more of a STEM type degree. In engineering in particular, we see kind of everything from Python to MATLAB to C in regular kind of day-to-day classes. And even just as kind of your go-to problem-solving tools, that's programming is becoming a lot more important just as a tool in the toolbox. I think the other thing to note too is that it's not just kind of an engineering skill, but it's being recognized now in many different career paths, many different academic undergraduate programs. I'm sure Jack can speak to this as well, but I'm seeing at Queen's the commerce program, a lot of people are taking computer science courses, are minoring in computer science in general, just because there is that recognition. All that said too, I know it's been 4 years since I've been at WIC, and I understand that they're always looking to improve their offerings, and I was definitely happy to see some computer studies and MATLAB training, and I think coding and robotics featured in the program there. So glad that it's getting some attention, because I think it's definitely an important priority.
Thank you, Chaz. Jack.
Yeah, for sure. And so maybe as like the newest grad, I can talk a bit just about like how WIC has changed, because like Christina said, like the institutes are now here, which you can read more about in like the good pamphlets that we put out. And then like Chaz said, the technology has really become like a big more important aspect at WIC. So like one of the changes that was made, I think like when I was in grade 11, is that all the senior students are supposed to have laptops, and it doesn't have to be like a super fancy laptop, just like something that you can type into Word to, really. But yeah, and I think something that I would improve on is similar to what Chaz said. Even though WIC has, I think, like grown in terms of its tech offerings, like there was a MATLAB course I think offered, and like a Python course offered, but I think that there could be some more room just for like more in-depth learning, because I think at university a lot of times there'll be like events where it'll be like, okay, like learn for an hour about like Python, and I think some of the offerings with Focus Friday were kind of at that like very introductory level, but then I think which is really good and like really essential to have, but then I think also having some more focused courses, or just some more focused like clubs towards learning how to program. So for instance, like when I went to Western in first year, I joined like a programming club where I developed an app for first year students so that they could like track their residence meal plan balance. And I think like having those types of clubs where students get hands-on experience with developing applications is super important, like Chaz said, and like Christina said, in the work world. Yeah.
Good to hear. I love this feedback, because it's a lot of the things that we are doing at WIC, so it's great to be on board with what your thoughts are. Next question. What would families find most surprising about the school? Chaz, let's start with you.
Sure thing. I would say that you know, the school has a tendency to pull people in, and parents, you may end up seeing a bit less of your child or children than you might expect during the week. The school is definitely not just your standard 8 to 3:30 or whatever the bells lay out. There's really a culture of engaging beyond the curricular environment, and I think as Jack and Christina have echoed, there's a million different ways to get involved in student government and drama productions and varsity athletics. lots of things that'll be happening after school, and there's definitely a lot of buy-in from the faculty, from the students to run those programs, make sure that they're done really well, and get a lot of engagement. So I would I'd definitely say that those extracurricular activities and times outside of the classroom for me were some of the times where I met and got to know some of my closest friends, got a lot of skills and a lot of kind of diverse experience from all those different avenues. So keep that on your radar. It's definitely something that most students are engaged in.
Thank you, Chaz. Let's go back to Jack.
Yeah, so similar to what Chaz said, I think usually, when my parents would pick me up from school, I would kind of hop in the car and they would say like, "Oh, what went on today?" And I'd be like, "Not much." But so as a parent, I think it can be hard to like know what's exactly going on, because usually the case was a lot had gone on, but I was just too tired to say it. So I think parents would just be surprised about like how much actually goes on in the course of a day at WIC. A great example of that is, again, at assembly, like there'll be so many different announcements from like different club offerings and different institute offerings. And I think too, that just going like to those events really gives you lots of different exposure. And like Chaz said, the student leadership at WIC, I think, is a really big part of it. So in like grade 12 and throughout your junior high and high school career, but specifically in grade 12, you just have a lot of opportunities to organize events for like probably like 150 plus people. I remember we had like one meeting where we were organizing like busing for like 200 kids to like get them to Banff, and all this like really cool stuff that you get to work with like an actual budget. And so I think just in terms of like organizing those events with friends, you make really good relationships. Organizing those events with faculty, like you really make good relationships again, and then you also gain those skills of like managing an event. So I think those are all really big things that as parents you may not see, but happens behind the scenes. Yeah.
Okay. Christina.
Agree with what both Chaz and Jack have said, and was what has been said before, but I think one of the main surprising facts that Jack touched on was just how much students actually learn at WIC throughout the day, and kind of the different opportunities that kids are exposed to on a daily basis. With that, and also just like the confidence to explore those opportunities and speak highly about them, and like speak openly about them. And like Jack said, you get in the car and you said, "Oh, what do you do at school today?" "Oh, nothing, just typical day." But like he said, you had 3 different meetings, you had 4 different academic classes, you got to work with a 3D printer, you got to go and see something in a hospital. Like there's all these different opportunities that students, you don't necessarily see on a day-to-day basis with your kids, but they get those experiences and they think those are like, they think they're normal, and they think that volunteering and all these leadership opportunities is just normal because kids at WIC get involved. And almost all students at WIC like to get involved, and that's like the thing to do, versus at other schools that may not necessarily be the case. And I think that just speaks to the sense of WIC's how they foster students and really showcase that leadership and foster leaders in the future. And leadership in general is a skill that I think that everyone can continue to work on, and the fact that that's normalized at WIC, and leadership is something that you do on a day-to-day basis. It's not a choice, but that's just who you are as a person. I think that's something that really differentiates and kind of surprises parents about WIC and their students that come out of it.
Great. Thank you. All right, we're rolling along here. We're into the last question, and I'll follow this by a Q&A session afterwards. Thanks for those of you who have been sending questions. Last question: what advice would you give to students just entering the school? And I've lost track of my flow here. Let's go back to Christina. I'll let you start this one.
Sure. So advice, I would say, is You don't have to, as a student, I don't know if there's any students on this call, but parents, you should also echo this to your kids, is you don't have to know what you want to do right now, whether it's grade 7, grade 9, grade 10, 11, 12. You don't have to know what you want to do, but you have to go out there and explore those opportunities like Jack alluded to, and like the institutes that are offered at WIC is it give you the opportunity to explore those. They give you the opportunity to figure out what you like and what you don't like, which are two both equally as important aspects of your learning and experience. And so when you're entering school, yes, if you want to go to post-secondary school, that's amazing and that's great, but you're not stuck. And I think in today's day and age, it's all about being adaptable and versatile and being able to apply those skills that you have, that you've learned and fostered throughout your time, your leadership skills, your hardworking skills, your problem solving, critical thinking, technical skills that Chaz has alluded to with like computer science and that kind of thing. It's like you take those skills and you can apply them. And in my MBA specifically, they call them transferable skills. And I think that's something that as a student, you focus on those instead of focusing on the end game. Will just help you within your career. And like Mr. Shalifu has alluded to, I started thinking I wanted to go to medical school. So I did life sciences at Queen's, completed an MBA or finishing it off, and now I'm working on a sales and trading floor. So I think it just goes back and goes to show that with the skills that you've learned at WIC or throughout your career or throughout your time at university, those will move with you and not necessarily the end goal. So
Thank you. Chaz.
What I would say is that being uncomfortable is okay, and a lot of the time it's important. Everybody's going to have things that they're not entirely comfortable doing throughout their junior high and high school careers. Putting yourself out there by making a speech or participating in an athletic event, doing something silly in front of the school. There's a lot of different examples, but I'd say that it's a very safe environment to be able to try and put yourself out there, make mistakes. The reality is that none of your peers have things figured out either. It's all a facade of confidence, and so the more you can make yourself kind of vulnerable and go for things, the better experiences you'll have. And I also say to try to do that earlier, because the earlier you can get involved, the better, the more you'll learn. The personal anecdote I'd give there too is that while I was involved throughout junior high and the start of high school, I was never really all that comfortable getting up in front of people and talking. And I remember my first decision to really kind of participate in that way was running for grade 11 students council representative. And I think it was probably all of a minute in front of my peers, but it felt like a big deal at the time. And that ended up being a great gateway to a great year on the students council. And then beyond that with the prefect council as well, and a lot of good experience and exposure working on those skills. So I'd say there's a ton of great opportunities at the school. Some of them might make you a little bit uncomfortable. You might be a bit hesitant to chase them down at first, but would definitely recommend to people that they do, because you'll get a lot out of the experience.
Great point, Chaz. Thank you. Jack.
Yeah, for sure. So I would really continue on that same kind of like thought stream of Christina and Chaz. I guess like the thing I always say is like, and it actually comes from a book, funny enough, that I studied with Mr. Lowen in English class, but it's like this quote from this book that's like, every day in every way, get better and better. So it's like, even if you can't be like 100% on every day, give like 90%. If you only have 90% on that day, like give 100% of that 90%. And I think that's something that WIC has really like grown in, just like from when Christina and like Chaz went, is that like acceptance of like failure is okay and it's part of learning, and that you're gonna fail sometimes, but that it's okay, because if you can fail quick enough, eventually you'll end up succeeding. And so I think that's something that I would give as advice to kids, is just try lots of different things. I remember that I ran for like Wicca in grade 10, and I was so scared of like talking in front of everyone that like I literally, I can't remember what I said, but it was just so bad. And I ended up losing, but then like the subsequent year I ran again, and like I was a lot more confident. I had talked in front of kids like way more, and then I ended up winning. So I think if you can like fail quick enough, then eventually you'll kind of end up running. You just got to take the first step. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, that concludes the canned questions, if I can call them that we had, that were given to us to provide to the students. I'm hoping that these questions were good in the sense that they provide you some guidance here in making decisions for your children and your family. I do have a question here that I was given, and from the audience. So I'll start with asking that one. And then if
I just thought of one quick thing that I would also recommend students doing, and what Chaz and Jack were speaking to, is make sure you take the computer coding courses. Like that is something that's a language that we are all going to need to speak. So learn it now is what I would say to all those parents and students out there.
Okay, thanks. So yes, in fielding the questions, I'll start with the first one, and I'll throw it out there. And if there are no other ones, I can maybe provide some. And so here's the first one I have a question from Asifa. And the question is, can you speak of the multicultural environment at WIC? Any one of you, Chaz, Christina, or Jack, if you want to jump in to speak about the multicultural environment at WIC.
I can start. You guys can jump in if you want. Basically, the multicultural aspect at WIC is, there was nothing for me specifically that stood out as a certain club or a certain like specific dedicated box to that. But for me, it was learning from my classmates. We did have a diverse group of people in our class from different cultures. And because our classes were so small, we were able to get to know our classmates quite well, learn about their families, learn about their different traditions in a sense like that, or different ethnic holidays or that kind of thing. Also, from another multicultural standpoint, is going on those trips and really getting kind of a diverse set of learning about different cultures that way. So going on the travel studies trips is another aspect that we were specifically involved in. There could have been other events that kind of were fostered after I was there at WIC, but I don't know if Jack or Chaz, you guys can speak to that or add on to what I just said.
You can go, Chaz. You want
Okay. I'm sure you'll have more to add with your more recent perspective, but I would just say that the first thing you see when you step into the school, into the Hall of Nations, is a wide array of flags that represent the backgrounds of the students that have attended the school, and I think that is representative of the sort of celebration of the diversity of the student body, and how the school celebrates the kind of unique perspectives and experiences that each student brings to the table. I'm not sure what initiatives have been undertaken in recent years, but I know that there's definitely an acknowledgement that that representation is important, and I think that that ensuring the school is kind of a multicultural and celebratory environment is a focus of the administration.
Yeah, I think just to add to that, I think it was actually made, I'm trying to remember the year, but Grant McNaughton started it. Christina and like Chaz may remember him, but he started like a GSA club at WIC, I believe it was him. And so that's kind of, I would say, like the diversity and like multicultural club at WIC. And when I was at WIC, it had like a ton of involvement actually. So I think it's not just, it wasn't just like a rubber stamp of like, oh, like we have this thing. It was more of like a thing that a student said, like, I really want this club and I'm gonna make it happen. And like he had lots of support from the administration in doing that. So I think that is something that really speaks to the multicultural like respect and environment at WIC. And then I think that was also a really good like point that Chaz made just about the flags in the Hall of Nation. And in addition to that, I'm not sure if it's still there with like all the renos and stuff, but on one of the rooms, like on one of the boardroom walls, there was like all of these things about like the different religions. And I took World Religions 30 in grade 12 with Christina's sister actually. So that was something that I think like really introduced me to a lot more religions like around the world and just different thought perspectives. So I think that is kind of my multicultural experience through WIC. Yeah.
Thank you, Jack. Next question, once again from Asifa. How prepared are the students to study and learn in universities that have very large classes and perhaps limited support?
I'm gonna steal this one right off the bat just because like I remember my parents, they came to like one of these sessions. It was of course in person, like when my oldest sister Caroline was thinking about going to WIC, and they tagged me along, and I remember my mom asking this exact question too. And so being in university, I think the number one thing I can say is that at 99.9% of people find first year hard, especially if you're going into like a difficult program like engineering or like a STEM-based program. So the transition is going to be like difficult for most people, regardless of like whether you went to private school or not. But I think even though you have like all of this support at WIC, in university, you're not learning how to write the alphabet again. You're learning how to like just use it in different ways. So I think WIC gives you like a really good basis that you can then like apply in university. So just understanding the basic notation of math, for instance. I had like really great math teachers at WIC that like really hammered down like integrals and derivatives and like all this stuff that in my first year calculus class, the prof, like I wouldn't say I learned like any new notation or anything. And even in second year, just because like through AP math and through all the different things at WIC, I felt very prepared for that. And then in addition, I would say with the very large class sizes and like the more limited support, because there is definitely less support at university, I think everyone does like find a way to work around that. And for me, like the way that I found was when talking to WIC alumni, the number one thing that they said was like, go to your prof's office hours, because that's where you can get that more like one-on-one support. And I remember like I was so scared the first time I went to a prof's office hours. I was like, oh my gosh, this guy is like a PhD in combinatorial math. And I'm just like a little undergrad, like asking him how to help me with this like question. But I went to him and he was super helpful. And I like learned about that through the alumni like from WIC. And I like continue to do that now. Like I go to my prof's office hours and they are always super helpful. So I find that like if you do make an effort at even big universities, you can go there, you can make those connections still. It's just that you have to take the initiative to do so.
Thank you. Christina?
I would also say, I might be stealing your idea, but WIC, for me, it could have changed, but we really got comfortable with writing tests and writing and doing assignments that are worth a significant amount of marks, which some students I found in my class weren't comfortable with. In my time, our diplomas were worth 50% of our grade in grade 12, which I know has changed, but getting comfortable with those large exams that are worth a lot of amount of marks was definitely helpful. And I think kind of what Chaz said before, and Jack as well, getting like being comfortable with being uncomfortable is something that WIC does foster. And that definitely helps you in your first year because it's very stressful. You're balancing a lot of different balls all at the same time. And there's a lot of discomfort and a lot of anxiety. So being familiar with that feeling and being familiar with all those moving parts definitely helped. And that's what I would think that WIC did help me with.
I think those are some really good points that have been raised. I think just to try to tie things together, a lot of the time it might feel like it is a structured environment at WIC and throughout high school. You'll have a lot of support, as was mentioned in the question. But I think what I found and what a lot of people find is that a lot of that structure isn't necessarily just inherent to that environment. It's actually structure that you create and you've learned. And so as you get to university in a new environment, you have the kind of learned process to be able to be successful. You have a solid academic foundation. You understand how to write exams. You know how to study. You understand your learning style. And the reality is that support is there for you if you're willing to go out and get it, and you understand that can be something that's useful to you. As Jack mentioned, professors are still a valuable resource, and a lot of the time they sit alone during their office hours anyway, so it's never a bad thing to pay them a visit.
Great, thank you. A third question I was provided here, how do you keep the kids in private school setting humble? And with a note here that the person who's asking this question also attended a private school throughout their schooling. So humility here. How do we keep you humble?
I can speak to that first. I mean, we all have throughout our time at WIC. I think first off, you need to know, like, you as a parent asking that question is great because you're teaching your kids that you are coming from a place of privilege. And they're learning in a school like this, which not everyone gets exposure to. But I think from grade 7 to grade 12 at WIC specifically, there is a lot of initiatives to give back. I remember in grade 9 or grade 10, we did Big Brother, Big Sister programs. So we got to work with students in different areas and be their buddy for a semester, which was a lot of fun. And you also understand, and it opens your eyes to the fact that not everyone gets a lunch every day or has parents that cares enough for that, versus us, our parents are so involved. And I think for a lot of students, they don't realize that they have that kind of privilege. The Brown Bagging Club, I don't know if that still exists at WIC, but it's an opportunity for students to make lunches for those kids that don't actually get lunches. There's different ways to get involved, whether it's at Christmas, there was clothing drives that we do, food donations, that kind of thing throughout WIC. So I think there's always opportunities to recognize our privilege and also give back to the community because we can and because we want to. Jack or Chaz?
I think that's a great point. Thank you. To add to it, I think that the sort of pursuit of learning and the way that students at WIC approach kind of broadening their horizons and their experience base is kind of goes hand in hand with developing a better, more holistic perspective of the world. And there's a lot of things that feed into that. Part of that is certainly recognizing that as students who are living in Canada, first of all, but able to attend this school and have access to all these programs, that is certainly a privilege. but then to also understand the world, I think a bit more deeply, and there's a lot of things that go into that. The travel program, for sure. I think part of the academic rigor and the other courses that are offered do help students understand the world religions that Jack mentioned, where other people come from, help empathize with their experience, and understand how the world works outside of I'd say what their immediate bubble would be.
Yeah, I think that's are really good points. And I think I remember one social class, the teacher was talking and he said, we live in Canada, which is one of the most like wealthy countries in the world. We live in Alberta, which is like maybe not right now, but one of the most wealthy provinces in one of the most wealthy countries in the world. We live in Calgary, which is like one of the top 5 best cities like in the world to live in, and you go to one of the best schools in one of the best cities in one of the best provinces in one of the best countries in the world. And like he was like, it's a privilege to be here. And that's when like I really like internalized that. And I think talking to like different staff about their decision to like teach at WIC, some of them said like, I kind of had this stereotype of like what a private school would be like. And then coming into WIC, like many of the things that I thought weren't necessarily true. So, and what they said like really changed their mind was what Christina was talking about, like all of the opportunities that kids take to give back. So many of the initiatives she mentioned are still running, like brown bagging still runs. I forget like all the other ones, but like I feel like every week there was some type of bake sale or like clothing drive or something. So with all the resources that come with going to private school, I think there's still a huge drive and like acceptance that is a very like fortunate experience to have and to give that to others. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Jack. We have approximately 2 minutes remaining in this session. I don't have a question up here up on the screen. If there are any, if there's anybody in the audience that has a burning question that they'd like to ask in the last couple minutes, please just unmute yourself and provide me with your name and go ahead and fire the question. No more questions?
You did such a great job.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. If there's any more questions, we're happy to answer.
Really? There was actually a question about AP courses. Someone would be interested to hear the insight on how they found those courses, the extra work commitment, and if they believe it benefited them in the transition to university. I think we touched on that already.
Yes, thank you, Isabel. I just saw that now. We have a couple minutes. Maybe we can answer that one if that's okay with you. Talk about AP and how, if it was helpful or not. Go ahead, one of you. Chaz?
Sure thing. Yeah, I found personally that the AP courses I took helped tremendously to bridge into my first year curriculum. I took I guess AP calculus and then AP physics, which were really well aligned with the engineering kind of general year. So I think as a student gets closer to graduating and has a bit of a better idea what might give them a head start at university, they're definitely a great option. And I also took some economics AP. Took an economics AP course as well. So even if it's not necessarily a direct input to your undergrad, it's a great way to challenge yourself and explore something that you're interested in a bit further. I'd say overall it's not necessarily much of an added burden. You still have the benefits of kind of the smaller class size, and you're able to pace the content at kind of the right level for those students that happen to be in the classroom. So definitely not a reason to avoid it in my mind, but not sure if Jack or Christina have anything to add there.
Yeah, I think I would just say, I think for pursuing STEM specifically, like the AP courses are really helpful, just because even though universities like don't have a set curriculum across Canada that they all follow, they all kind of have like an informal curriculum that they end up following anyways. So I think the AP really helps with that. I took AP Math and AP Physics like kind of as well. I took AP Physics online, which was an interesting experience. But anyways, yeah, so yeah, I think the like one, don't take AP Physics online, take it in person. But when I took the AP Math in class, it really helped me with my calculus in first year. And I think too, just the process of writing an exam that's big. Because I remember my AP Calc teacher was like every year, like you'll be lucky if there's one person who gets 100% in this exam, like out of everyone who writes it, not even just in your class, which is kind of insane. So I think that is something that is a really good process to go through, because in university, like some of those exams, I remember writing my first physics final exam, and like the last 3 pages were just blank, like it was blank. And I still like ended up doing well. So becoming comfortable with like not knowing the answers to questions is something that's really valuable. And I think AP helps with that.
Thank you, Jack. Christina?
Yeah, I would agree. I just quickly to what they said, I took AP Bio and AP Physics. AP Physics is obviously where it's at, I guess. But it is worth it, and it's helpful just given your first year experience, or given any student's first year experience, if that's what they're interested in. It also, because WIC front loads your courses in grade 10 and 11, you do have the opportunity for this extra challenge and to take that on. And it just goes along with that discomfort aspect. It's like, these are challenging courses, and if your student or your son or your daughter really wants to be challenged, then this is a great way to do that academically.
Fantastic. Thank you. Well, it looks like we're out of time. And before we sign off, I'd like to thank Christina, Chaz, and Jack once again for being here today, and for providing your insight for all these prospective parents. And we will be in touch. So thank you again for doing that. Mr. Reader, I think I'll let you close the session, if I can pass this back on to you, and thank you everybody for attending.
Thanks, Rolly, and thanks very much for running the panel as well, Mr. Shalafo. Rolly, you did a great job. And thanks very much to Christina, Chaz, and Jack for taking the time out of your new lives and your new busy schedule to come back and help future families think about the successes that you have become with their own children. So we really appreciate that. And for all of you who are on the line, I hope you got your questions answered or had an opportunity to learn a little bit more about the end product of West Island College as you consider us for your son or daughter. If you'd like more information, we are always available. You've seen Jenny and Isabel on the line. You can send an email to admissions@mywic. You can see our email addresses that were up in our videos there. Or if you want to write this down and make a phone call directly, 403-444-0023 is the direct hotline right into the admissions office. Give us a call. Happy to talk if you have any questions about the admission process. For those of you who have children who are going into grade 7, we are doing testing in November. So if you haven't already started an application or come for a tour, the time is running short to get into that first round of testing. So thanks very much for taking the time today. We hope you all have a great weekend as things go into the snow belt here.